For a classy night out, you probably reach for the cocktails. But historically speaking, the English often prefer beer. Invented by the Mesopotamians, it's a firm favourite to this day. A particular favourite is German beer, famous for its purity and taste. They even have a dedicated law called the Purity Law. Only natural products are allowed in the brewing process. The grain used to make lager is called barley. It's collected every year by enormous combine harvesters which separate the stalks from the grain. At the brewery, the barley is mixed with warm water. It's about 15 degrees Celsius, and this is the beginning of a process called germination. As it sits in the enormous copper tanks, the barley absorbs the warm water, which triggers a reaction in the seeds vital to the brewing process. The barley actually starts to grow. This growth spurt starts the production of malt in the grains, which is needed to make beer with. After about 6 days, the barley is dried and rotated to stop it from rotting, and the brewer is left with what looks like muesli. This is malted barley. And for all you beer fans out there, this is where the brewing process starts. The malted barley is mixed with fresh, clean water. Here, the malt that was produced during germination can now get to work on the natural starches in the barley itself. The complex sugars or starch needs to be broken down. This green character represents the enzyme that does the job. The enzyme's interaction with the starch breaks the chain, producing sugar. This is what you make alcohol from. In 2002, Britons consumed almost 10.5 billion pints, so the brewers have a lot of work to do. Once the malt has done its job and broken down all the starch, the mixture is passed on to the next tank. Now, if the barman in your local served you a pint of this, you'd probably ask for a fresh glass. The mixture still has all of the malted barley powder and husks in it, so the next step is to get rid of it. At the bottom of this tank is a sieve, and the liquid flows out, leaving the malt inside. It's sold to farmers as it makes excellent feed for cattle. Now that all of the fibre and husks have been removed, the clear liquid is sent to a different tank where the brewer adds the next ingredient, the hops. Hops will give the beer its characteristic bitter flavour. The more hops used, the more bitter the final taste. The last ingredient is probably the most important one for beer, yeast. This is responsible for the two most obvious characteristics of lager. Firstly, bubbles. The yeast ferments, which releases gas, and this makes the beer frothy. At first, there are too many bubbles, and all you get is a glass of foam. However, the beer is left to brew in the tanks at just 2 degrees Celsius for about 4 weeks. This gives it time to develop flavour and for the yeast to ferment the sugar into alcohol, the second important characteristic. One of the perks of being the boss is that you get to sample some of each new brew that emerges. It seems to go down quite well. All that remains is to get the beer to the pubs so you can have a pint. Reusable bottles arrive at the plant by their thousands, but they need to be cleaned and checked to make sure they're safe. This machine shines a light through the freshly washed bottles, and any with defects are sent to the recycling bin. The plant can fill 50,000 bottles every hour, which are then capped with a fresh lid. The bottles are then passed through water so that the brand new labels will stick when they're applied. And finally, they're packed into cases and loaded up to be shipped out to the pubs, bars and supermarkets all over Germany and beyond. German industry is renowned for producing precision engineering. Unfortunately for those who like a tipple, that attention to detail even includes their lager.